Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. And today I'm so excited to be joined by my brilliant guest, Mira Manga. Sorry if the pronunciation's off.
It's all
Uh,
good.
okay. As I've taken my first few steps into the Warhammer 40K and 30K kind of literature, as I've been trying to sort through all the different sub-series, authors, time periods, factions, all of it. It was an absolute joy to stumble upon Mira's channel, your channel, where, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you started down this Warhammer rabbit hole about 3 years ago now. And I thought that today we could have a brief discussion about your experience of getting into this world and maybe your advice for newcomers as well. But the first question before any of that is, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It is sweltering hot in London, but it's also for us, it's Friday evening. So I'm so excited to have a really cold bath and read a book in it. And then yeah, the weekend will begin.
Okay. What book are you reading right now? Or what are
Oh. So I have four choices. One is Nemesis by James Swallow, which is the next one in the Horus Heresy. One is there's a great author here, Juno Dawson, and she's done a trio of books around King Henry VIII's wives and what if they were witches, like a witch's coven. And I bought the
oh,
first of her books because I went to a book club. The other one is Translation State by Anne Leckie, which I was reading for the Hugos and I thought was amazing, but I read it so quickly, so I want to reread it properly. And the other one I'm trying to reread is Witch King by Martha Wells, who's one
okay.
of my favorite authors, but it's Witch King is really it's not hitting the same for me.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
how about you? What are you reading right now?
So I just finished, and again, I'm gonna get the pronunciation wrong on so many Warhammer things, especially. But I
I mean,
just finished the second Abnett Eisenhorn book, Malleus,
oh, yeah.
and
Yeah,
then I started Horus Rising. Yeah.
oh no. Okay. Good luck.
Thanks, thanks.
It's
I'm
a
also
ride.
reading also not Warhammer. I'm really into Diana Gabaldon's Outlander stuff, so I'm reading the fifth book in the Outlander series.
Is that the one that has a TV show too?
Yeah, yes, yes.
Okay, so I never dipped into the books. You think they're good?
Yes. I think some of my friends they bounce off the writing style. It's a lot of kind of lengthy descriptions to get across all the research that Gabaldon did into the time period, which I love. Like I love hearing about how candles are made and how laundry is done back in the 1700s and things like that. But it might not be for everyone. But then there's war and yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, I think if you like that kind of historical stuff, yeah, you should definitely check out Juno Dawson. And believe the first book is called Her Majesty's Royal Coven.
Okay.
So, and yeah, when we went to the book group, she was talking about all the historical research and what ladies in waiting could do and like the different castles and towers of London and stuff like this. So,
Okay, great. Okay, well then, if you don't mind, if I kind of bring it back a little bit to Warhammer, I tried to do a bit of research on your channel and what some of your earlier videos were, and I saw at least your I should say your earlier Warhammer videos, because
yeah,
you had other D&D looking related stuff and like miniatures videos.
yeah.
Um, but with Warhammer, I saw that you, or one of your earlier videos was a conversation you and Ian did about Dan Abnett's first Eisenhorn book, Xenos.
Mm.
And in that, you talked about, or when you were talking with him on the video, you guys talked about having a book club or a book group that you read that with.
Yeah,
And yeah, and also, I think you mentioned that Dan Abnett, the author, came to visit and talk with you guys, or was it
yeah.
like a Zoom meeting type thing?
It was one of the only good things that COVID brought to my life. I just before COVID, I broke up with my boyfriend, and like you remember COVID, like it was
Yeah.
so, yeah, depressing. And we have a gaming club called Hackney Area Tabletop Enthusiast, or HATE for short. Um, and it's really sad, actually. The venue that we have we host it in seems to be like closing. So that's the news of this week. We're looking for an alternative venue here in East London. And we just couldn't get together and play games. Like, and it was such a lovely social thing on Wednesday evenings and on Sundays. So some of the guys were getting together and like painting and having their Zooms on.
Okay.
So I love books. So I think we just suggested let's read some books, and we read some Octavia Butler. We read a Conan book because I love Conan. Like just there's the whole like rah, but also it's like a lot of ennui and sorrow in these books that are just yeah. And then I can't remember who suggested it. It must have been Ian, because I am so influenced by Ian. He's known me since, forever. And I used to be in bands and do music, and I was just so very used to like if I'm working on a project, I'm going to approach this musician and ask them. So I just wrote to Dan Abnett because I was thinking we're all in lockdown. What's he going to be doing? And he said, yeah, I can come along, but you can't share it. Like it's going to be just be for the club. And he popped along to the Zoom. My friend Dee helped me. I was like, Dee, he's coming. And now I have to like moderate it. And Dee was fabulous. So between Dee and I, we hosted Dan, and he was brilliant. He answered everyone's questions. I think he came twice to our book club. And then when Ian invited me onto his channel, you know, Ian for a really long time was like, do your own YouTube channel, do you? And I was like, no, why? And so he was like, you should do this. So I just started very gingerly reaching out to authors, because the main thing that makes me tick is I'm so happy when I can I'm trying to figure out the muse. What is the muse? Where does it come from? Where do your ideas come from? Let me suck it out of your brain. And for example, at work today, a friend was telling me about her art project. And I was like, yeah, but where did you get that concept? And she kind of said, well, there's this poem, and it's about a raven flying over a dining table, and it represents death. And I was like, this is my lifeblood. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
sure.
that's how and I love reading. I love, 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 love reading. My relationship with books is my only faithful and true happy relationship, I have human friends, but books never let you down. So yeah, sorry, I'm talking too much.
No, no.
If I
The,
talk too much, go like this and I will stop.
no, that was great. That was great. I will say, with like, I did discover your channel through Ian's channel, or
Mhm.
Arbiter, Ian, his
Yeah,
YouTube channel. That's how, like, when I was looking into, okay, what's this universe? What's the backstory? What are all these books? Is there a starting point? I found his stuff first, along with just, I mean, as I'm sure you know, there's a slew of so many kind of lore mastered channels
yeah,
all over YouTube. But then finding that you had your own channel where you were doing these author interviews, um, and also just the book club discussions that you did with Ian, that was a real kind of breath of fresh air for me as a newcomer, because a lot of those other channels can be a little intimidating because
yeah,
they're all such like experts. Not that you're not an expert, but like some of
yeah,
those early ones, like watching, I guess, listening to you get into the story and get into the lore, I found that I'd say more gripping and engaging than listening to kind of the documentary listing
yeah,
of lore dates and things that a lot of the other channels have. They're great
I,
channels too, but
yeah.
I think yeah, you brought a really nice, like fresh, newcomer friendly kind of approach to it.
Oh,
So yeah,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Because it's really good knowing that that we have videos of some worth to lovely people. So I do think a lot of the lore videos, it's almost like when you watch them, like you want to know about a thing, and they're like, come and look at this about the Badab Wars, or the first Titan or the biggest Titan or whatever. And then it's a little bit like walking into a lecture hall where a professor, and maybe it's like a PhD, like a master's or something. And I feel a little bit like, I don't know if you ever watch Community, which is one of my favorite shows, but it's a little bit like me and Ian are in that canteen in Community at the back, like just talking about community college, we're in the canteen talking about our geek stuff. And for me, that's really good entry level. I bow down to all those people with huge brains who remember all the lore. I feel like Ian is Scooby-Doo and I'm Scrappy-Doo, right? So Scrappy-Doo's like annoying, like let me at him. Ian is like the Don. And I feel like, yeah, I'm very lucky that, same thing, Godzilla, Godzuki, like I get the overspill, but sometimes I'm having conversations with authors or other people, and I'm like, I know this knowledge connects to this knowledge. And then I'm like, it's such a good feeling, but I will never be as good as those lore masters. But that's okay.
Would so a lot of those like the big like more intense lore channels and things like that, and I'm sure the book club that you were reading with, they all recommend Xenos as the best or one of the best starting points for
Mhm.
Warhammer stuff. Now, so many years later, having read a lot more, would you agree that that's still one of the best starting points? I enjoyed it as a starting point, but I've only read a couple other books and a couple other short stories, so I haven't read as much as you.
I Without Xenos, if I'd started on maybe any other book, I don't know if I would. I feel there were spiritually, I really love reading books like The Long Goodbye. I love Philip Marlowe, The Lady in the Lake, all those old books. And Xenos really has that kind of detective gumshoe feel
Yeah.
to bring you along. And the world, the characters are painted so vividly, and you care about them instantly, and they're quirky. And you want to know, why can't he smile? Like, am I going to find out? And you're rooting for them. And there's twists and turns. And also, the perfect storm of horrible COVID, meaning I got to meet Dan. Like, since I've met Dan, not only am I completely knocked over by his writing skills, he's so effervescent, friendly, warm, generous with his knowledge. And I feel like, I would take a bullet for that man. And certainly him being present in my dawning of alongside Xenos, that was definitely, yeah, that was my gateway. And now now this is what my life now. So yeah, here we are. What did you think of Xenos?
I loved it. I thought it was so good. And yeah, the I think the detective thing worked really well because even when there was a action sequence where they're describing guns or swords or whatever that I have no idea what it actually looks like, I can at
Right.
least be focused on the mystery at hand, like I really like that aspect of it. Like it seems like he wrote it, and I don't know, I haven't spoken with him like you have, but it seems like he wrote it where you don't you're not really lost reading it. Like yeah, if you have it raises a lot of questions about the broader world, but as far as what Eisenhorn's trying to figure out and where he's got to go next, like it's not that
Yeah.
hard to follow.
No, I'm so pleased that you liked it. And do you think you'll read the second and third books in his, well, he pops up in quite a few books. Do you think you'll continue, or are you going to dip your
Yes.
toe in
So
other
I,
lore?
I just read the second one, Malleus,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Malleus.
Oh yeah, of course. No.
I thought it was I thought it was good. I didn't like it quite as much as
Yeah.
Xenos. I thought it it was almost like a really great anthology of okay, now we're gonna do a 20-minute adventure over on this planet, and now we're gonna do a 20-minute adventure
Yeah.
over in this mining colony, and
Space
oh,
tourism.
right, which was fun, and it was great to see different parts of the world. I mean, just looking into the models and trying to look at things. If a faction that really intrigues me are the Adeptus Mechanicus. So I like the fact that there was a character that was an AdMech character in that second Eisenhorn book. I thought, oh, cool! I get to learn a little bit more about him. Now I haven't like collected the models or started an army or anything, and apparently it's one of the harder armies to collect, the AdMech. But they really excite me. So much so that I went and I got Graham McNeil's Forges of Mars trilogy. I haven't read it yet, but I picked
My
it up
God,
as I heard
Graham
great
McNeil, my friend. Oh yes. And I'm gonna mess up the book name, but in the Heresy series, there's a book called Mechanicus or
things.
Mechanicum
Okay.
that is oh, so good.
Okay.
So good. So yeah, I highly recommend that as well.
Okay. I kind of back with the Eisenhorn stuff. I've seen or I know that you read like I guess there's two side characters to Eisenhorn's adventures. They
Yeah.
have their own series. There's the Ravenor stuff, and then there's the Beckwin stuff.
Yeah.
And Beck or Elizabeth Beckwin, she probably along with Amos, those are my two favorite characters so far.
Yeah.
So the fact that there's a whole series about her is, yeah, I guess what are your thoughts on those books?
Well, I was so surprised when we went over to Beckwin. Like, I don't want to give any spoilers. I just found it incredibly refreshing and fast paced. Also, there's a kind of like old-timey old world element to it that feels really refreshing and not as like industrial wasteland grimdark. It just added this extra, I don't want to say like a gothic layer, and it added an extra fantasy historical flavor.
Okay.
And then there's like some cameos are dropped in, and I cannot wait for Pandemonium, which is the third Beckwin. But I really think one of Dan's strong points is building these characters. I mean, part of the reason I love the Xenos trilogy is because the cadre, the group, they're so interesting, you know? And so yeah, but I love that you love Amos and Beckwin as well. That's so cool.
Um, I guess are there any kind of moving on to another question? Have you gotten into any other aspects of the Warhammer world outside of the books? Like, have you gotten into the game itself, or the mod or the painting models?
Honestly, I have not. This is my favorite game. I pull this out all the time. This is my Match the Primarch game, which my
Oh,
friend Jim made for me. So
okay.
when I was learning, like, so I played this game with everybody. So it's like, I got pictures and then I got like what they do. So for
Uh-huh.
example, I know that Night Lords are fortifiers and they are led by Conrad Cruz. Do you know what I
Oh,
mean? So like
okay. Yeah.
I'm still at a very basic level. I have seen many games of Warhammer played. To be super honest, I'm just not into war games. Like
Okay.
especially with armies, like strategy, tape measures, like unless you're like role playing,
Yeah.
I love role playing games and I don't have the brain for it. So it's even like games like Risk, where you have to think like in advance, what are they going to do? Like I get distracted and yeah, so the short answer is no. However, there are various RPGs, like there's Warhammer fantasy RPGs and stuff like that I'd be interested in playing. And Ian actually put together like, oh my God, my brain. I want to say there's like a new-ish Warhammer RPG,
Okay.
which is around Inquisitors or something, and I was meant to play it with Ian, but I got COVID.
Oh
So yeah, but how about you? Are you much of a war gamer?
no. I think it sounds like maybe I'm a little more on your
Yeah,
a little more similar to what you're into. I played like some fourth edition D&D and some fifth edition. And so yeah, the role playing kind of stuff is what always appealed to me about that
yeah,
much more than the min-maxing of the characters. It
yeah.
doesn't matter if the sword makes sense for my guy, but it's the strongest sword, so I'm gonna take
Um,
it.
what's your favorite kind of character to play in D&D?
I always like the I get I like the I like to play like a gentle giant kind of character. So like
Oh,
I'll do like a oh it's been a while since I played but like the barbarian class or something like
yeah.
that. And then but then like I'll play him really like innocent and kind of shy
Oh,
and but
that's
like
cute.
because I always hate like I don't know the rules well enough with any of the games to play like a rogue or something like that, where I feel like I need to know exactly kind of how to move around the battlefield a little better. So if I can
Yeah.
just be a big guy with a big club and go
My
in and beat
God.
stuff up.
I always play a bard because I'm a show off
Oh,
and
okay, okay.
I like to be like, look at me, look at me. And everyone's like, can somebody else please play Mira? But have you read the Dragonlance trilogy?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh my gosh, yes, because there is a character in that. There are twins, and one of them is called Caramon, and he is like a gentle barbarian, but his brother is a really sinister magic user. And it's I think you'll love The Dragons of Autumn Twilight by Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss.
Okay, okay,
Yeah. But yeah, a huge recommend. That's one of the first books that kind of got me into like D&D as well.
okay.
Oh, this is so cool. I know I shouldn't be asking you questions, but it's really interesting to hear what you're into also.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I am open to getting into the wargaming kind of side of things. The only problem is I'm about to go back to school, and so I'm operating on a stricter budget right now and a stricter time budget as well. So actually finding the time to collect an army and learn the rules and make meetings and stuff, I'm not sure if that's really in the cards right for me, but the reading is I think is going to have to be the
Yeah.
focus at the moment. Yeah. Yeah. Have there been any books that really? I was gonna ask if there have been books that surprise you, but maybe a better question would just be, what are like, unless this is too hard, what are like your two favorite books that you've read, and maybe your two least favorite books that you've read?
In Warhammer or
Yeah,
ever?
in Warhammer.
Okay. I Well, one of the books that sticks out in my mind is the one that was about Fulgrim. I can't remember what it was called now. That's terrible. Sorry, this heat has literally shriveled my brain to a peanut. So I'm using the beginning of Fallen
Okay,
Angel.
yeah.
It is called Fulgrim. It's book 5 by Graham McNeil. And that book, I loved it and I hated it. It's really gross. It
Okay.
makes you really, I don't want to spoil it, but it makes you really like Fulgrim. And then stuff happens and you're like, "Ah," and but everyone was so anticipating, oh my God, it's going to be rough for you. So they were like, and they were right, but by the time I finished it, I felt so satisfied and confused and bewildered and like upset and happy, and yeah, so that one will stick with me. And then in basically the first four, Horus Rising, False Gods, Galaxy in Flames, and the Fight of the Eisenstein, there are so many moments where it's the beginning of the heresy, and these space marines that have been brothers for millennia, maybe like thousands and thousands of years, are completely ambushed and shocked by people who turn on a dime and you know are just slaying them. And there is a lot of great writing in those four novels around brotherhood, and you're I guess because we all know the Horus Heresy story, we know certain events, or I'd learned, a lot of people that you care about are going to die, but there were such touching moments. I- I'm not going to cry now thinking about it, but where they're like looking at each other, like saying like, why brother? Or they're dying together, like looking at like nukes coming down out of the sky. And those four books really drew me in. So I think that was just so powerful. It was like, continual punching. Flight of the Eisenstein was a bit calmer and there was more kind of warpy weirdness, but maybe in a way, thank God, because I could have had a breakdown. Um, the ones I kind of struggle with, I think this is like public knowledge, is where there are very intense tactical battles for a prolonged period of time. Because my brain doesn't work like that. Sometimes I even have to like note down or write who's doing what. So if the book is going to be covering mostly epic battles or skirmishes over many chapters, I struggle with them. But and this is the kind of the behind the scenes bonus. because I know I'm going to be hoping to talk to either the authors about the inspiration or Ian about my thoughts and feelings. I really enjoy those books because I know we're going to pull the meat out of them
Right,
and
right.
explore them. And actually, like I did fess up to Mike Lee, I'm so sorry. I struggled with the space battle, and he was saying he plays a game. I can't remember the name of the game now, but it's a Warhammer space battle game. So how he wrote that was by remembering these battles. And
In the game. Oh, wow.
so
Okay.
I'm like, no wonder I can't keep up. Like you're literally bringing this level of sophistication. But yeah, I don't really dislike any of them. I've never had to hate read any Warhammer book. Also, it's quite amusing. If I'm in the middle of a book and I'm like, what's going on? I'll go on a live and I'll be like, guys, I'm reading this book. This has just happened. And having the force of all these readers, comments lifting me up, people telling me what to look out for, it literally feels like we're in a gang reading. How often does that happen?
Right.
Me, I don't know, Matt. I don't know. I really don't like the Harry Potter books, so I've missed all that
Okay.
phenomenon. I felt they were super derivative of Enid Blyton and Lord of the Rings, and they stole all the ideas. And I thought the writing was like so basic and dumbed everything down that I never had that collective. The whole nation is reading these books together. So
Right.
maybe this is my Warhammer moment.
Okay.
And I'm meeting other readers now. So it's cool to meet someone like you because, we're good peoples.
Yeah. Readers, yeah.
Yay.
So with Horus Heresy, are you so it sounds like did you say you're on like the 13th or 14th book, or you're somewhere around there, or
I can tell you exactly what number I'm on, even though I forget. I'm on book 12 of
12?
like,
Okay. Are you planning to read all 54? I guess, and then
I
64
am
with
I
okay.
am a finisher.
Okay.
I'm see you in 5 years, like we did it. Maybe 6, 7 years. But yeah, I mean, I I'm just thinking of other things I finished. I loved the Expanse books.
Okay,
I
okay.
fantastic. All Terry Pratchett's books, obviously. There are some like series that you just stick with forever, right? And how could I not? Now I started.
Yeah.
It's an issue. Can I ask what's your favorite book series ever or
My favorite book series, this is kind of how I started my channel, or sort of an offshoot of it. But my favorite series, it's a epic fantasy series called Malazan Book of the Fallen by Stephen Erickson.
yeah.
He's a Canadian author, and he and his buddy Ian C. Esselmont, they on archaeological digs and stuff when they were younger, they worked out this whole role-playing world setting, and
Ah,
now since like 1999 or so they've both been writing just several series, and it's a massive thing. Like the starting kind of series, it's 10 books long, and some of them are like 1,200 pages, so there's kind of a lot to sink your teeth into, and just really kind of beautiful world encompassing like stories about compassion and suffering. So it gets really dark, but then they show, I don't know, they show a multitude of reactions to that suffering and kind of how to answer horrible situations. So I love that series. And there was like a couple of prequel books that no one on YouTube was really talking about. So a few years ago I was like, well, I really like those two books, so I'll get on
yeah.
and make a few videos about that. Yeah. But
Oh,
yeah.
that's wonderful that you picked up fans of those books. Like, yes, someone else has read these.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I will give that series a whirl. You just need to let me know which is the best one to begin with.
Okay,
So
yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. Malaz Book of the Fallen and Gardens of the Moon's the first book. I can message after the fact, but yeah.
Gardens of the Moon already sounds immediately up my alley. So
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you like reading it, you can kind of tell scenes where it's like, okay, this was determined by a really lucky D20. Like this
yeah.
person would have not really been so
Well, yeah,
successful otherwise.
those Dragonlance books were inspired, I think, in part by D&D sessions
Oh,
as
okay,
well.
okay.
So look at us.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I do want to say one of the last things I want to say before going is listening to you and Ian talk about that second Eisenhorn book. When you guys got to one part and you were talking about, uh, I guess, light spoilers, but it's so out of context that anyone watching, I don't think it's really spoilers. You were talking about the Pontius Glaw kind of brain in a box character, and you guys did your Dalek voices, and you were cracking me up. I loved it. Like, it was so entertaining. I love that.
All I can say is you need adult friends who can be silly with you because life is suffering. I truly believe all we put on in this planet is to try and make it a little bit nicer for our co-riders. And Ian like allows me to cut loose and do silly voices together, and that continues. And sometimes we try accents and offend huge countries and swathes, but I don't think I'll be doing the Australian accent anymore, but
Oh, no.
but I hope that you have book buddies who are similar because they are lifeblood. And now I've made a new buddy in you. I'm like, this is very cool.
Well, thank you, and thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a total pleasure. Is there anything you'd like to add before we go?
I would just like to add, if you've come here to see me, which I highly doubt, but please give this lovely channel a like and a subscribe and support, and let us know your favorite recommendations of your books in the comments below. And I'm just on YouTube as Mira Manga, and I'm very needy. So anybody subscribing the other way around, you have my eternal gratitude. Yeah, I think that's good.
Thank you, thank you. And yeah, and on that note, the Mira Manga channel that's going to be linked down in the description below. So, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for watching. Have a great day. Bye.
Oh, thank you. Bye.